Welcome everyone to Teamfight and Tactics. I am, of course, ImpetuousPanda, part of the Rising Legends broadcast team. And I have a very special guest here today. It is, of course, Chuso, one of the, breakout performers, not just in Spain, but in EMEA across the last, 3 sets, ever since set 6. But Chuso, welcome to the show. Happy to have you here as a fellow Spanish player, of course, as well. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm doing great.
I wanted to ask...
enjoying Easter.
Yeah, perfect time to take a break and get your mental in order for big tournaments coming up for the end of this set 8.5. But Chuso, as I very quickly mentioned at the very start of this interview, you're a player that's had a kind of a breakout performance the last few sets. I think you're now very clearly have earned the respect as one of the top players and most consistent players in Spain, especially. But I want to take us all the way back to the very beginning, not just in TFT, but in your gaming history, to find out more about how you became such an accomplished player at this point in time. So first of all, Chuso, what can you tell us about yourself as a person, outside of gaming even? Are you studying? Are you working? Where are you from? Anything you want to share with the audience, I think would be great.
Okay, so I'm Chuso. Like my real name is Jesus, but yeah, I'm a random guy from Spain. Specifically, I'm based in Valencia, and I'm 22 years old at the moment, and finishing my studies at the university here in Valencia. Last year.
And what is it you're studying? What degree?
How do I say this?
Give me the general.
Computer engineering.
Okay,
I think it's called
computer sciences. I think in English. But quite similar. Nice. That's quite an accomplishment to get into that and also be playing TFT on the side. I wanted to ask you, where does Chuso come from? The name itself.
It's like a nick from elementary school. Actually, like my friends started calling me by this nick. Like it was from some guy on a series here that was being
aired in Spain, a TV show.
Specifically in Valencia.
Okay, so more of a local
like
TV
it's
show.
a more Valencia Catalonian name. It's not the usual nick from every place in Spain.
Got you. Going into gaming itself though, before TFT, were you of a casual gamer? Have you been gaming your whole life? Is there any point in time in your maybe teenage life where the gear suddenly switched and you said, hey, I'm very good at this, I want to start competing in video games and getting into esports? What was that journey like for you?
When I was little, I started playing video games like at the age of 5 maybe. Like my father bought me a GameCube, and I started playing Pokemon, like these games from a lot of years ago. And later he bought me the PS2, and yeah, like I played casually just because in my free time I enjoyed playing video games. And then, like when I was 12 or maybe 13, I discovered League of Legends because a friend told me. And yes, later on, I discovered TFT like 1 year before the pandemic, I think.
And did you play any strategy games before TFT? Hearthstone, for example, is a big one for many players in terms of their past, maybe other card games, for example. Or was TFT your first kind of foray into more strategy-based games and not something that's so mechanical like League of Legends?
I think it was actually like maybe I played a few games of Hearthstone, but I didn't really like Hearthstone at the time. I thought like if you want to build a great deck, you had to invest a lot of time, and if you didn't want to spend money, and I didn't have that time, so I wasn't in touch with strategy games before TFT, and yeah, it was my first experience competing in strategy games.
And in League of Legends, was that purely casual, or were you competing at higher ranks as well on the ladder in LoL?
In League of Legends, I invested a lot of time actually the first years because it was like the very first game I tried to compete in, but not really compete, but to grind.
Yeah.
And I reached like D1 or something, but I didn't really reach Master or Challenger Never.
I mean, for many different gamers out there, D1 is already, something that's already incredibly hard to accomplish. For my case as well, I think strategy games is where my strength is, and I think yours as well, too. So considering your performance in the last few, I think just the last year or two, especially in TFT, but bring us back to just the very first experience with TFT. How did you get into it? What were your first impressions? Did you, from the very first moment, know like, oh, I want to compete in this, I want to try and become the absolute best? Or was it more of a fun thing that eventually changed to something else later on?
I started TFT by as my friend recommended me League of Legends, he also recommended me TFT, like trying, because we both saw that this game came out and we were curious about it. So we tried it, and I played set 1, and after set 1, like, I dropped the game because I didn't really like that much the new set 2. And then in the pandemic I came back to TFT. I played the whole set 3.0, I think. Then in the 0.5 I dropped again, and I came back in the set 4, and I think in set 4, like, it was the first tourney I played, actually. Ending of set 4.
And set 4, were you already, breaking into the top spots on ladder as well? And Challenger, were you playing tournament more from like an entry level kind of thing, like the open qualifiers now, where you can be diamond to play? What level were you at when you first started trying to compete?
Like the system, the tourney system, it wasn't the same back then. So there were like a few tourneys from this streamer or a tourney from this guy who was organizing. So I think at that time, in ending of set 4, I reached Challenger, like 1.k low. And then I started entering in random tourneys, like whichever I saw. And I remember that the first one, it was organized by Reven. Here in Spain, is a big streamer in TFT. And I remember that I ended 4th, I think, or 3rd in the tourney, and I was so hyped because it was my first experience. I was very nervous, and I did great. I think my honest opinion was that I didn't play my best, but 4th was great enough for what my performance.
What you expected, basically, yeah.
Yeah.
And going into this tournament, did you already have in the back of your mind, hey, I really like this game, I think I'm pretty good, I want to be competing in this game for the next, for the foreseeable future, maybe the next few years? Or was this tournament and this 4th place placement kind of what sparked the idea that you do actually belong at this very top level, you could actually compete for more in the coming sets?
I mean, I after that tourney, I still thought that I was really bad. Like, I had to improve, because I watched back then. I watched a lot of streams. Like, I don't know if you remember Tabs, Daisy, Alan, who is streaming right now. I think he's your fellow. Alan was the very first, one of the very first streams of TFT that I watched, and I think I watched more than I played TFT. And after a few sets, I really thought that I improved as a player, and I could compete in Europe. And yes, like last set, in set 7, I was like not very motivated about the game, because it was the Dragon set, right? And it was so toxic in like the first patches, and I was thinking of dropping TFT, and by luck or something, I didn't really prep any tourney, and Super Brawl went super well. I almost went 3rd, which was the way to qualify to the EU finals, but I ended going 4th. And then in the next GSC, and I ended 3rd, I think. So it was like I was in the EU finals, that's it. And after those 2 tourneys, I changed my mind, and I thought that I could compete with the very best in TFT here in Europe.
Yeah, for me, my experience with you as a player, obviously you're Spanish. When I first started casting TFT, when the circuit started up in set 6, you were one of the names that I knew about, but you're not a person that streamed to very big audiences. You're not someone that has been competing in other esports like AK Wonder and Snooty and Hearthstone, for example. So you're a player that, you keep tabs on, but you don't know much about them. You don't know how good they can actually be. And over set 6 and set 7, you really convinced me. And I think, a lot of other viewers and other players as well, I think, in EMEA, that you are a player that deserves to be among the best in Spain, but also among the best in Europe in terms of consistency, in terms of putting up great results across now 3 different sets coming to set 8. I know in set 8 you reached rank 1 as well on ladder, which I assume was a huge milestone for you back in December. Have you really switched now to the next gear where you're not just saying, okay, I belong here, I can compete, I can be among the top 50 players in EMEA, but are you actually trying to convince yourself that you can actually compete to be maybe the best player in EMEA in this set or the next set?
At the moment, I'm really confident that I can compete with, like I said, the very best players in New West. Like the switch off, like the moment I realized that was back then in the Super Bowl, when I was thinking that I wasn't really able to step up to that level. Maybe I choked in a few tourneys before, and that was like a very sad moment for me. But after that tourneys, I was very confident that I could compete with high-level players here in the West. And yeah, the rank 1 achievement was really huge for me, because it was a long time. Yeah, I really wanted to take rank 1. Like in set 6, I think I reached rank 2 in the very end, I think, but I couldn't reach rank 1. And it was like I wanted to be rank 1 at least once. And I did it last set 2 times, and it was great.
So talking about your performance, I think you can also freely admit this has not been something that's come only from yourself. I think a lot has changed in the last year or so in the Spanish community, in terms of how much has been done towards incentivizing players to really start competing, to start working together to improve as a unit, as a national unit with the Spanish players and also individually, as we're seeing in your case, in Odessa's case as well. And going even more specific, you have a team that you're part of as well. Can you run me through what this team is, the name, the participants, and kind of where it comes from and what it means to you as a competitor in TFT?
Like the team we have, it's called Xus0o Clan. So, like it's a group of friends who met in the university national circuit. Like we all met there, and since then, like Odessa, also Dactar, who isn't playing anymore, but he was also high challenger. Like he was the most he was the challenger with most points back then in set 4, I think, but he dropped the game. And like Menina, Soyun, etc., of friends who met in that circuit, and yeah, we created like a clan, kind of. And it isn't really a team, but it's like a group of friends who are not that bad at the game, I think.
Well, I think not that bad might be an exaggeration, because it's comprised of, in my opinion, 2 of definitely the top 5 Spanish players right now in TFT. Yourself and Odessa, I think you guys are both very, very similar. You're mentioning as well, both from university esports, both coming in, starting to play at a high level at a fairly young age, 21, 22 years old, and both having very good results and in a very similar pattern as well, in terms of not being big content creators, being lesser known players that started slowly showcasing to everyone else, like, hey, I deserve to be here, I deserve to be among the best. Do you think also there's kind of this parallel journey with Odessa where you both had a very similar story until now?
It really helped us to join as a group to improve, for sure. But back then we were like only ladder warriors. Like we were maybe top 20 or top 30 in Challenger West, but we didn't have that much success in tourneys. And after a lot of time playing and the experience from a lot of tourneys, like the experience is the most important thing. And we stepped up in a few tourneys last set and this set. And the group, like talking in Discord and sharing games helps a lot.
And look at the bigger picture now with the Spanish community itself. I think starting specifically in set 7 is where a lot more was being done with Manute, one of the biggest content creators in Spanish CFT, spearheaded this project of creating a Spanish national team to some extent, and having these players more, being more purposeful in the way they work together, making sure, as you're mentioning, to have more calls together before big tournaments, to really try and work as a unit, and also trying to set up more boot camps and more scrims with French community, with other communities in EMEA to improve as well. How important do you think it has been in set 7 and now in set 8 for Spanish CFT for this kind of initiative to start up?
I think we improved a lot as a country, because back then before set 7 we didn't meet each other at all. Like I was talking almost every week and every day with Odesta since I don't know set 4, but we didn't talk a lot like with Dalesom, Lumar Pino, Snooty, Aka. We were like alone. We were working basically alone. And there is like these countries like France, Poland, which are every time in Discord sharing games, talking, and it was a big difference between these two countries and Spain. And I think this set we made this gap like a little bit shorter, I think.
Yeah, a bit smaller.
We already have two Spanish players qualified, which are Xus0o and Snooty. I think a few more can qualify if we do well in the tournaments that are left.
Yeah, yourself included. You're currently sitting 3rd in the points total, the GSC points totals after the 1st and 2nd GSC have concluded, with a 3rd one coming up, and you're very close to making it. Of course, with the way the GSC points work, qualifying to the tournament doesn't really do much for you. Even if you only need a few points to guarantee it, you need to make it to day 3. So that will be the major goal, I think, for yourself and a few other Spanish players. But we already saw in GSC 2, last day we had 5 Spanish players competing on the day 3. Hasn't happened in a long time, if ever, at least from my memory. As a very biased Spanish caster who keeps very good track of this, I was obviously very happy to see the amount of players, but also the quality of players. I think day 3 we had very good results, and a player like Snooty having a breakout performance in set 8, being right now the current leader in GSC points across 2 tournaments out of any other player in EMEA is a huge accomplishment for sure. But going into GSC 3, how are you feeling? Because we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is the new mid set 8.5. It's been controversial to say the least. I think either the lack of content or maybe lesser content compared to other mid sets, and also the balance has been a little bit all over the place in the first few patches, now getting a little bit better. But what are your general impressions starting into the mid set? Do you feel you are better as a player than set 8? Do you feel you've become worse? What's your idea coming into this next tournament?
Even if I played a lot of games in this set 8.5, I don't think I enjoyed that much this mid set, because like in the start it had a very great potential. I think like the units at least that got replaced were, in my opinion, better in terms of what the ultimate did, and but there were like some changes to traits like Oxforce and Hacker that were kind of strange, and it didn't feel that great. And like it happened to be that those traits are the most toxic ones, if not the most toxic ones we ever had. Like Hacker right now, even in this patch that we're going to play GSC, it's really toxic. Nari is being played as a Hacker unit, as in the Hacker portal, LeBlanc of course, and those are the most broken meta comps at the moment.
Do you feel how a lot has changed from in terms of the game plan that you're going into in set 8.5 compared to set 8? Do you feel, obviously legendaries are a lot weaker, that changes a lot in terms of rerolls being much stronger compared to the very end of set 8, which had, obviously very good balance compared to the start of the set. It kind of got better and better as we went along. And then there was a very hard reset. What are the general kind of big picture ideas you have now going into games in set 8.5? Do you think a lot has changed?
I think from set 8, like already the 5 costs in the last patches were weak. Like they were very weak. Maybe Aphelios and Mordekaiser were a lot better than the rest. And yeah, like I don't really like that 5 costs. You don't get really rewarded for going 9 in this set, and you better choose the earlier you can the comp you are going to play, instead of just pushing levels and win streaking, going 9 and then filling your board with 5 costs, and you end up maybe in some cases you end up going bottom 4. So it feels really bad in that sense. But I think if you want to compete in this game, you just have to accept those things and adapt your playstyle to that. And yeah, that's what I try since 2 sets back. Like my mindset changed a lot from back then, because I was really tilted when a patch was bad, but right now I'm also triggered by some things, but I try to suppress it and just think, why did I lose to this, or why is this strong, and just realize things from that and adapt.
Coming into this tournament, this is going to be aired during GSC3 and one of the pre-shows, and then later on YouTube as well. So many viewers will be seeing this after your performance, and they can kind of compare what you're saying now to what has actually happened. But coming into GSC3, what is your prep looking like? We're recording this now with a few days left to go for the tournament. What do these last few days of crunching and preparation look like for you? What's kind of your routine or your schedule coming into these days?
At the moment, I'm not playing that much or studying the game. Like I am enjoying my few days of holiday, if I can say like that. I'm having time with my friends, my family, and yeah, disconnecting a bit from the game, and to take this patch fresh, like refreshed, and enjoy the games that I'm playing. And yeah, like starting from today, I'm playing more and studying the game. Like I don't really think there is much more to study, since the meta isn't going to really change. I think the things that were played this weekend on the Open Qualifier, I think is going to be played in next weekend when the GST is being played. So I don't really think there is much things to prep, just to master these little things from every comp, and yeah, learn, maybe watch some VODs from Chinese players, which I didn't watch that much this mid-set.
And looking now more into the future of TFT for these last few minutes of the interview, I wanted to ask you what you project or what you predict will happen coming into the regional finals later on in May. We've had obviously a very interesting set, with France no longer being this like singular powerhouse that is very clearly, very far ahead of everyone else in EMEA. Instead, now we have Germany, who had a fantastic representation in GSC number 2 and good quality of players as well in the final day. Spain, of course, Poland has always been there in that dark horse position. But what do you predict for regional finals? Do you think once again France will send all these different competitors to Worlds? Do you think things will be different this time around?
I think there is a bunch of French players, that big names like Xus0o, Double, Voltariux, that are not, if I'm not wrong, locked for EU finals. And these players are like beasts when they try their best. And I'm expecting like these three in which I'm talking, that to qualify for day 3 at least and do well. And yeah, it's going to be a rough GSC because everyone wants to be in EU finals, and that, as you said before, my goal is to reach top 32, and I think with that I'm already qualified for EU finals, but it's going to be really rough, I think.
And when it comes to Worlds, do you think you have a chance to make it representing Spain? Do you think any player representing Spain will be able to make it? We've had obviously representation from Poland, from France, from Germany in the past. But if I'm not mistaken, Spain has not had a player yet qualified to Worlds, despite being among those 4 or 5 best countries in EMEA.
I think we can do it, but we really have to push harder to prepare for the Worlds patch. I don't know how it's going to be the game when Worlds come, but if we want to send some Spanish player to the Worlds, we have to push harder to make it, I think.
Do you think
there's a lot of EU players that prepare so well for these tourneys?
Do you think in Spain, concretely, will it be more a case of the mental aspects as well? Because even if Spanish players are now qualifying to regional finals, they haven't been there really before in terms of being there, not just happy to be there, but being there trying to fight for a world spot, I think, in my opinion. Do you think that this lack of experience at this high level, with this high ambition, will impact Spanish players? Do you think overall the mental has become much better in this set?
I think the mental, we broke a mental barrier, if you can say it like that. Because players like Xus0o are doing so well in tourneys. Like Xus0o was cursed or something before this last 2 GSC, and he's doing so well. Also, Xus0o, when he wants, Xus0o is a really good player. He also shines with every comp he plays with these little details, and I think Xus0o or me can make it also to the finals of EU, maybe to Worlds. I don't know if we can make it, but I really think that we have the great mentality into it. Like, I think we change a lot of things in a positive way to make it. I really think we can at least
fight
for it, like at least one Spanish player to Worlds for once.
Well, for the curse of the mental being broken, I'm going to take credit for it. I stopped picking you guys as favorites and dark horses in the GSC broadcast, and all of a sudden now everyone's winning when I ignore my Spanish biases. So I'll continue doing that for sure for GSC 3 and for future tournaments. Chuso, you've been playing since set 4. This is a question I've asked every player I've interviewed. I wanted you to give me what is, in your opinion, the top 5 historic players in EMEA, players that ever since set 4 and coming all the way into this moment now, you consider have done the most in terms of consistency, in terms of top results, or their highest peak level of gameplay, for example, as well. Doesn't have to be in order, just whatever first 5 names come to mind.
Okay. Of course, Double61. Historically, he has been the best in EU by far. And also from France, I would say Voltariux and I think Xus0o. Like, these 3 are really consistent every set. They reach rank 1 or maybe rank 10 if they are not pushing that far. But in tourneys, they always do well. They almost always reach EU finals and have played, of course, already won Worlds at least. Then from Poland, I would say Leluch. He also has been in Worlds already, and he is also very consistent. And I don't really know which one to say here, but I guess I'd say Xus0o. Xus0o is also a really strong player in ladder. I don't know how, but he always has this crazy board capped with every unit he plays. And he also played a lot of EU finals, I think. So I go with him.
Yeah, top 8 in the last one, couldn't quite make it to Worlds, but definitely a player that has been camping in the top 10 of ladder since I think the beginning of TFT in EMEA for sure. So very formidable list. Thank you, Chuso, for sharing your opinion on that. Coming into the very end of the interview now, do you have any shout outs you want to give to anyone that has helped mold you and you know, helped you become the player you are today in TFT?
Do I have to say this in English?
You can say it if you want in Spanish. I think our editors will be able to translate and subtitle.
Ok. Pues sobre todo dar gracias a toda la gente que me apoya, desde mis amigos a mi familia y a la gente del TFT aquí en España, que desde que nos reunimos hemos tenido un montón de buenos resultados y el buen rollo que hay entre todos y o sea, la sensación de comunidad desde este set ha sido mucho más grande. Y pues eso, que muchas gracias a todos y esperemos que este set, si no, pues los siguientes, algún español se clasifique para Mundial.
Lovely to hear that, Chuso. Thank you for those, great words. And overall, I'm definitely feeling some good vibes, some confidence coming into this tournament and the rest of the set. So as a biased Spanish caster, I'm very, very happy to hear that and to see you having such a great journey in TFT as well. Thank you so much for your time, for your insights, to get to know you a little bit better since you've been popping off so hard in the last 2 sets. And best of luck in your career in TFT in the future as well.
Thanks.